So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another episode of Is It That Bad, where we take a look at an album that maybe got mixed reviews and we re-listen to it to determine if it's that bad or if it was misjudged. And on this episode, I have new people joining. Today is one Puerto Rican and three Irish. Irishman on the program. So yes, it's gonna be fun. Down below, I have Robert Boylan. So Robert, how are you today? And tell us, what's the name of your channel, Robert?
Oh, good. Yeah, thanks for having me on, Hector. And my channel is called Wall of Gain, and it's similar enough to your own channel. We do, music reviews, gig reviews, and I play a bit of guitar as well. So try to get a bit of that in there as well.
Yeah, I don't play shit, so I can't play an instrument. But I said that on because sometimes when I review, sometimes tells me like, show me your music. I'm like, that's just because I don't play doesn't I mean I can have an opinion. And I have right next to me the Sound Podcast. So tell me your names and what your podcast is all about.
Go for it.
My name's Luke. So we run a podcast called That Sound Podcast, and we are also based in Ireland. We're good friends of Rob's. I am a musician myself. I play a little bit of guitar, more so a drummer, a batterista. But
Nice.
that's my profession. I play with a band called the Savage Hearts, and I think some of your audience might really like their stuff, Hector. But I'll pass you over to Gavin now, my co-host of That Sound Podcast.
Yeah, Hector, I'm like yourself. I don't play shit, but yeah, we love music, and we do a weekly podcast, like Luke said. We do album reviews. We have guests on, talking all things music, from rock, metal to country to everything. We cover the whole lot. So something like yourself.
So someday I'll have to be over to your channel. So it's good to have new people, and we're here to discuss a band that needs no introduction. It's Metallica, and we covered Metallica here on the channel before. So people will say like, you already covered Lulu, and we did Saint Anger. So and I did a video for Load, which I actually enjoy. So we came with the second part, Metallica-Reload, that was actually released back in November of 1997, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it's been a while, and yeah, I remember this album a lot when it came out, and I did listen to it. So yeah, we're going to talk about Metallica on this episode. So you know the drill, couchers. We have the 3 rounds. The first round, we say our initial thoughts when we listen to this album. Then on round 2, we pick 3 songs that we think are the weakest, and we explain why we think they're the weakest. And then on the third and final round, we give our final thoughts, and we vote thumbs up, thumbs sideways, or thumbs down. I'm not gonna start because you've seen so we're gonna start Robert, then we'll do the Sound Podcast, and then finally me. So Robert, in this first round, what were your initial impressions when you first listened to this album?
Yeah, well, I suppose when the album first came out, I was only 14. So at that time, hadn't got into Metallica at that stage. But I remember, all the hardcore metal fans in school, that they were all saying Metallica cut their hair for, these Load and Reload albums. And that the style was completely different. Like they completely, sold out. It was even different from the Black album. And the first time I heard it, definitely you can hear it's a different sound from the Black album. It's not a metal album at all. Like it's really a hard rock album or an alternative rock album. So that was when I heard it the first time. That was my initial thought on it. But I have to say, like the production sounded amazing, I thought, when I heard it the first time as well. So it was very well produced.
Yeah, when did you listen to it? Back in the 90s or like later on in life?
It was, I tell you, I got the Black album in the late 90s, and then I got S&M, and a lot of the songs on S&M were taken from Load and Reload because they were obviously promoting those albums. So that's how I came across a lot of the songs first, was from S&M. And then I went and bought the album then in the following years, and got to, the deeper cuts on the album then as well.
Awesome. So the Sound Podcast, your first impressions of when you listened to this album?
I think I listened to that album maybe in the late 90s by the time I got my hands on it. Similar to Rob, I probably would have started with the Black Album. And I think I went the other way. I think I went like the Black Album and then I went back and I went like Justice and Ride and all that. So I probably went through them albums first before I got to Load and Reload. One memory I do have from Reload is I remember I actually got the the Ninja Star that was on the CD
Yeah.
of Reload. I got that tattooed on my back, and I remember going to Dublin with the CD and the guy copying the CD of the Ninja Star. So I always have that memory from the album. But listening to the album, yeah, I agree with what Rob said. Like the production, I don't agree with all the backlash that it gets. I'm sure we're going to get to that, but I think it's I think it was at the right time, at the right moment for Metallica. They had to be a little bit more diverse in the music. Yes, it's not metal, it's hard rock, like Rob said. But at the time, I think it suited Metallica, and I really enjoyed a lot of tracks on it. Really did.
Nice. What about you, Lucas, right?
Yes, well, Hector, you will laugh, but I wasn't even born when this album was released.
My God, am I the only one who's 46 years old here?
I'm
I look
26
younger.
next week, so you're 20 years
how
older
old
than
are
me.
you?
No, I'm in my 40s as well, Hector, so you're okay.
Oh yeah, but people say I look younger. But how old are you, man?
I'm 26 on
Oh
Friday.
my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a young pup. But a very funny story with my first encounter with Reload was similar to Rob. S&M would have been the first Metallica album that I had experience with, and I loved that album, absolutely loved it. And then after that, I remember getting, say, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, going with the early albums. But for what I had left to get, I was gifted And Justice for All and Reload one year for Christmas.
That's
And
a
of
weird
course,
combination, but yeah.
yeah, I think they were the only two CDs that I had left to buy. And my dad had got them for me for Christmas, and of course I much preferred the And Justice for All artwork, and one was one of my favourite songs on the S&M set, so I decided I'd listen to that. And then I listened to Reload after that and quickly turned it off after probably 4 songs and threw it in the locker for the guts of 10 years maybe, until I got my car. So when I had a car and I started listening to all of these CDs in the CD player again, it was actually myself and yourself had a conversation about it maybe 4 years ago, well before the podcast. Gavin called me one day and was like, man, I'm listening to a lot of Reload and Load again. It was like, they're good albums. I was like, nah, man, they're dog shit. Like, no. Go and listen to them and let me know what you think. So I listened to it again, listened to them in full, and then had a newfound appreciation for them.
Yeah.
So after that, listening to them with a new ear, I could definitely appreciate them a lot more, instead of being, what should I say, a fired up aggressive teen with like, yeah, give me And Justice, give me Puppets. That's all I wanted.
Yeah. So I did buy this album when it came out, because in 1997 I was in college. And my first introduction into metal was the Black Album. So when the Black Album came out, I first bought the Black Album, then I bought the first 4 albums. So when they finally said Load, it had been 4 years, so I was like waiting. But to me, I don't think it was like a huge departure, because I got into Metallica first with the Black Album, and I think Load and Reload just kept that more commercial side. And yes, I don't think you should go into this as a metal records. They're hard rock albums. There's hard riffs, but it's more a rock album than a metal album. Because the Black Album it was more commercial, but it still falls of the umbrella of metal. It's still more a metal record than this one's, but I do think I like Load more than Reload, and I think it's because more of my favorite songs are on Load, and there's a few songs on Reload that I really love, but I think I listened more to Load over the years. But after that, obviously we all know what happened with Metallica and Saint Anger. So, like I said, when I listened to these albums back in the day and I listen to them now, they're very well produced. They sound very, they don't sound bad. No one can say like, hey, these albums sound bad, because they don't. Maybe they can say, like, if you are a fan of like Kill 'Em All or Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning, obviously you're going to be disappointed. But if you like the Black Album, I think there's stuff here to enjoy. So yeah, I did buy it when it came out, and I'm not gonna say that I listen to them all the time. I listen to the two songs on this album that I really listen to a lot is obviously Fuel and The Memory Remains, which I think is a very underrated song that I just love that song with Marianne's faithful vocals. So so those are our first impressions. So now we're going to round two, where we're gonna pick 3 songs that we think maybe are the weakest and why. So Robert, what songs did you pick and why?
Just on a note there on Marianne Faithfull's vocal part there, Hector. So I was actually chatting to Luke and Gavin, and I was doing a bit of research on the Wimble Lane studio in Dublin. I don't know if you're familiar with that studio. U2 would have recorded a lot of albums there, on the Rolling Stones and REM. But apparently the vocal part that Marianne Faithfull recorded, she actually recorded in that studio in Dublin, and then it was overdubbed onto the master in the plant in California. So we thought it was very, very interesting note on that, because the studio puts it up that Metallica have recorded here, but it wasn't the band, it was just Marianne Faithfull. So
Awesome.
yeah, I just thought it was an interesting fact. But just in relation to the album and the 3 songs that I choose as the weakest on the album, like for me, this album it's very segregated. So I think like the first 6 songs, 5 of the first 6 songs are strong in my opinion. And then
I agree.
That's like you're probably coming on 35-40 minutes at that stage. Like they could have pulled the plug and you would have had a pretty decent album, but they keep going to 13 songs. They use up all the space they have on the CD, and like James Hetfield made a comment on the Some Kind of Monster DVD that we've showed in Load and Reload that we can whip anything into shape, and I think that's exactly what they've done in the back half of this album. This is all the parts of songs that they hadn't finished, and they basically were just trying to make a square peg fit into a round hole with these songs, trying to make them into something when there's clearly not a song there. So the 3 songs for me that are the weakest, Where the Wild Things Are is a very strange song, and I don't think it doesn't sound like Metallica, even hard rock Metallica. It just I don't know, it's very odd. It's probably not the worst track on it. I think Low Man's Lyric, track number 11, to me, that's like I don't know, that melody and all that instrumentation there, it's like I don't know where they got that from there. It's very strange. It just doesn't sound right on a Metallica album, and I don't know where they were going with that, but it doesn't work. I was listening to it again today, and it's completely out of place on a Metallica album. And then the last one I have is Fixer, which is the last song on the album. Again, didn't think that was great at all. So that's the 3 tracks for me that would be the weakest on the album: Where the Wild Things Are, Low Man's Lyric, and Fixer.
Okay, yeah, interesting picks. So the Sound Podcast, what about you guys? Which 3 songs did you pick and why?
I'll go first, Luke. I agree with some of what Rob said. I do agree that the first few songs, or maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, actually, look, let's just kind of get one thing straight. This is not one of the better Metallica albums, right? It's
No, of course not.
what I said earlier. It's definitely on the weaker end. But I think if a different band came out with this album, it would be a lot more credited than it is with Metallica.
It will be called Nickelback.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
kidding.
But I think songs that I'd knock is maybe Attitude. Maybe Bad Seed. Apart from the opening riff, I do like the opening riff of Bad Seed, but I think it drags on a little bit. And Prince Charming.
Yeah, those are interesting. Everyone's picked some different songs. I think no one has picked the same songs for now. So what about you, Lucas?
Well, I'm going to pick one of Gavin's, but it would be down the list. It's funny, I probably listened to this album with a wee bit of a different ear, that I quite enjoy it as a musician, especially some of the drum tracks have a lot more pocket in them as well. Like Lars's playing's on fire, some of James's riffs, really, really good. I know Kirk is like present with the lead stuff, but it's back to seeing that vintage Hetfield and Ulrich connection, where it's very much that James and Lars rhythm force, and Jason plays a lovely part as well with the bass, but it's mainly James and Lars as usual, and we see that even more. But there are some songs where I feel you start to see what the drummers would refer to as the Larsisms come into play, where just maybe throwing things where they mightn't, what should I say, feel the best, or maybe not the best choices, but at the end of the day, it's Lars and he'll do what he likes to do. And I felt there was a little bit of that in Better Than You. That would be one of my songs that I think could be off the album, in my opinion, or one of the weaker tracks for me. And it's not
Better
like
Than You. It's like I feel like it's like a knockoff version of Holier Than Thou.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sort of mixed in with like
What did we say?
oh no, that was another one. But I feel it's like the end with the if you mixed Holier Than Thou with like The Struggle Within.
Yeah.
Sort of off the Black Album. Nearly the off cuts of that. I also felt that was it Slither I had said to you was the start. Slither I found the
Like, don't go looking for snakes, or you might find them.
Yeah, the opening hook is like very Sandman-y, very Enter Sandman-esque, like an off cut of Enter Sandman.
Yeah, definitely, I agree.
Slower.
And the Black Album has a there's a snake on the cover, so that you can actually see it on the Black. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if you just tuck Sandman back a wee bit, give it a wee bit of a bluesy touch. Give Enter Sandman a Telecaster feel instead of an ESP Explorer, and I think you get Slither. But I still don't think it's bad. I just think it's one of the weaker things. And then Attitude would also be another song for me that I think is pretty weak. And then the rest of them I actually really like, Where the Wild Things Are.
Yeah.
Prince Charming actually would have been one of my favourite ones, especially, the Hey Ma, Look It's Me. That sort of real driving punk attitude.
I've got Guns N' Roses in brackets after Prince Charming. I just think it sounds like a Guns N' Roses song. It's very relevant.
They wrote that one when they had that tour that was a disaster.
Yeah, possibly.
You ever feel, Rob, especially after seeing AC/DC, in the chorus where it's just like the single strum power chords? It's very like Shoot to Thrill-esque.
Yeah, get a bit of that from it, all right, yeah.
Let it run down. That's sort of.
They took a lot of chances on this album. Like there's a lot of stuff here that doesn't fit in the Metallica box.
But do you not think that James's vocals was very isolated, and it was very kind of brave of him to kind of his lyrics? It was his most exposed lyrics, I think, of general singing on an album was more so Reload and Load, obviously. Like you like I don't start an argument here, but Fixer I think is a like the lyrics in that song is like so honest and so true to his life. I mean, it's not a gem of a song, but I think the songwriting, yes, some of the songs are cheesy. Fuel and stuff is a little bit cheesy, but like there's some real
but
honest
it's
tracks
fun
too.
to play.
Yeah, it is fun to play, and it's fun for the crowd to interact and pyro and all that. But I just think his lyrics were bang on this album, and his singing was absolutely bang on too, in my opinion.
Nice. So yeah, so I have to pick songs now. So none
Sorry,
of you
yeah.
have picked this song, and I think it sucks. It's called Carpe Diem, baby. That
Okay.
song is just so boring. It doesn't do anything. It's like a linear note the whole song. It just really, it's not that it's just uneventful. It's like a song that it's filler. That's what I call filler. It's a filler track. Even the name sucks. Carpe Diem, baby. It's like, I don't know. I thought it was really bad. And I think this is an album that I think the first half is stronger than the second half. So it's like there's a lot of like cool songs on the beginning, and then it kind of loses steam. It's too long at 76 minutes. It is a long
yeah.
record. I think they could have shortened a little bit of the fat and do like a 60-minute record, and it would have flowed better.
Yeah.
So I would pick. I think Bad Seed is just is kind of corny, where he's like choking on the bad seed. He chokes, and it's just very generic. It's a very generic song, and it sounds like a ripoff of songs that they did better in the Black Album. You know, you had "Don't Tread on Me," you had "Holier Than Thou," and those were like those shorter songs. They're supposed to be punchy, but they're more memorable than this one. And I would say I enjoy Attitude. I don't know. I think it's a fun track. Maybe the lyrics are nothing that great, but I would say that I would pick as a third one. I know it was a single, but The Unforgiven too. It's just like, come on, The Unforgiven too. And then they
Luke's not happy.
Yeah, then they did The Unforgiven 3. I don't know. It's just like The Unforgiven 1 is a classic. And this one is like, so you're unforgiven too. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, we get
Yeah.
it. I used to love it when it came out, but now when I listen to it, it's just not The Unforgiven. It's The Unforgiven 2. And when they did part 3, fuck it. I'm like, no more. Forget him. James, write something else. No more Unforgiven. So as a single, I don't know. I just think it's when you have the Unforgiven, that's such a classic song. This one's just like it's like it's like the younger brother that no one asked for.
It's like the stray dog that came to your back door that you want to kick away.
Yes, I'm very honest on this episode. So I picked some different songs because I do think Where the Wild Things Are is a strange song, but I actually don't think it's a bad track.
Yeah, I like it myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's strange, but it's not bad. But The Unforgiven 2 is just lazy fucking writing. it's like oh, we had a big hit in The Unforgiven. Let's do part 2. And then they're like years later, let's do part 3. And I wonder if he said when they were doing Hardwire or their last album, let's do Unforgiven 4. And they're like, fuck no, James. Like no more Unforgiven.
I think we'll see it on the next album.
Yeah.
Probably. No, but it's gonna be called Still Unforgiven. Instead of like
Unforgiven Returns.
The Unforgiven Returns.
Unforgiven, the anniversary.
Yeah. So yeah, we've all picked some different tracks. But that's interesting because sometimes there's albums that everyone picks the same tracks, but on this one, because I don't hate the album, but it's just like I think it's a little bit maybe bloated at times. So now we're gonna go to the third round where we give our final thoughts, and obviously we can say what we do enjoy about this record, and then we will give it a thumbs up, thumbs sideways, or thumbs down. So, Robert, your final thoughts and verdict.
Yeah, so like obviously this album, it was all recorded at the same session as Load. The songs were written in that whole session, and I think Load is like pretty amazing album, to be honest. Like
I like Load better.
There's not. I don't know if there's any bad tracks really on that album. Maybe one or two average tracks, but certainly no bad tracks. And I think they start off this album in the same vein. Like as I was saying, the first, I think for me, 5 out of the first 6 songs I don't like Better Than You, but the other 5 I think are excellent. Like I do like Unforgiven too. Like if you look at it on its own. But the second half of the album for me, yeah, I think it's bloated. And I think most of the songs that we picked collectively all come from the second half of the album. So I think first half is good, second half is filler. So for me, it's a sideways thumb for me. I don't think you can say it's a bad album. And I do agree with what Gavin said earlier. If it was any other band, it would probably be rated higher. It's because Metallica have such a high standard from their previous work. I think that's why people are probably more critical of it.
Yeah, if this was Nickelback, this would be their best album.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about the sound podcast, like your vote and final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I like it. It would be down the list of an album to grab to throw on to listen, but especially when we knew we were coming on with you, I give it a good listen again, and I have to say I really enjoy it, and I love the heavy stuff. I love lots of heavy stuff, like, you know, Justice, Ride, and crazier other stuff, but I really enjoy this album. And I think the second half of the album, I think parts of it are a bit bloated, like you said, but I enjoy Fixer, I enjoy Low Man's Lyric, Where the Wild Things Are. I do enjoy them songs. So, and the first half I think is quite good as well. So it's a big thumbs up from me.
Nice. So we have a thumb sideways and a thumbs up. What about you, Lucas?
I really like the album. You know, the first 5 out of 6, I'm in total agreement with Rob. It's very, very good, except for Better Than You. I'm not a huge fan of. I like the verses, but other than that, not a big fan. You know, Bad Seed I absolutely love because that was the intro jam in Cunning Stunts DVD.
Yeah.
And I remember watching that, you know, Kirk comes out with the KH3, James has the Elk Skull Explorer, and Lars is spitting his drink into the crowd, just being really nasty and ignorant and just being Lars, and it's like everyone's having a good time, and you're like, oh yeah, I used to love that. So The Unforgiven 2 is a song I absolutely love. Really, really like it. It's one of my cousin's all-time favourite songs ever. So I always sort of think of him when I think of that one. But yeah, that album gets a huge thumbs up from me.
Yeah. And I ruined Unforgiven 2 for you. I don't hate it. I'm just saying that
No, I love it. I love the way
Unforgiven.
I love you.
It's not better than the Unforgiven 1. It's like Predator 1 and Predator 2. Like,
Yes.
I rather watch Predator 1. So for me, this album, you know, when I'm listening to this album, I don't think it's bad. It's not a bad album. I think it's kind of it's average at times, you know. I think that this album would be better if what they pick the best songs from this album and the best ones from Load and just made one album, because I do think it's a little bit bloated, and I do think that Load is more memorable. Like when I think of these songs, like you know, I love Until It Sleeps. Until It Sleeps it's one of it's a very deep cut from Metallica that I love. And they had King Nothing. The Outlaw Torn is an amazing closing track that I really love. So I think Load is a superior album. But I think this album, yeah, has its high points. My favorite track is still The Memory Remains. I like that track a lot. I don't the Unforgiven 2. I just pick something differently, but I don't think it's not as good as Unforgiven 1. But I would give this a sideways. It's an average album. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's also not as bad as people say it is. Because people like trash these albums. Like come on, like Saint Anger. Lulu, to me, those were easy thumbs down because they suck. But these albums, you know, there's good production. I just think if you cut a little bit of the fat, it would have benefited from being like a better album. But yeah, so 2 thumbs up and 2 thumbs sideways. So that means that this album is safe. It's not that bad. Like like the 2 thumbs up, keep it up. So yeah, we've all voted. So Metallica-Reload isn't that bad, people. So so we want to know from you, Couchers, what do you think of Metallica-Reload? Comment down below. Let us know what tracks would you say are the weakest and why. And tell us how would you rank it in the Metallica discography. To me, it would be like in the bottom tier because I actually like their last 2 albums. I like the yellow. I actually bought the yellow album here. I forgot the name. 72 Seasons.
Oh,
I'm
awesome.
like, what's the name of the yellow album? Oh, it's 72 Seasons. Yes, I still think this is a hideous color, but a lot of people said bad things about this record, and
I love it. I love it. And
yes.
shameless plug. I've actually done a Metallica ranking of the albums recently. You'll see it on my YouTube channel,
Oh,
Wall Again. So I've gone. I think Reload came in at 9th on the listing. So what I had behind it was obviously Saint Anger, but I also had a Hardware to Self-Destruct behind it.
You know what? When I do lists of Metallica, I don't count Lulu as a Metallica record because it's more of a Lou Reed record.
Yeah, I didn't
Metallica
count
on
that.
it. So to me, their worst album is Saint Anger. That's at the bottom. And I actually like this one better than Hardwired to Self-Destruct.
Oh yeah.
I think this one was better. I didn't understand the hate or people just saying because I'm like I thought it was great, very cool album. That's why I bought it on vinyl. I don't buy a lot of vinyl, but when I do, it's Metallica. Well, this year I actually bought one, the Pearl Jam, the new Pearl Jam, but that's a whole
Dark
totally
Matter.
different band. So yeah, I want to thank my guests who are. This is their first time on the channel. So we got Robert Boylan from Wall of Gain, right? It's Wall of Gain, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And his channel is pretty cool. He does album reviews, but he also talks about 90s stuff. The first video I saw from him, I'm like, yeah, we would get along. We like the same bands from the 90s. Yes, I like Dirt. Yes, I like Soundgarden. So yeah, it was he has a cool channel. Plus he's got that, you got that cool background. So Robert, tell us can they follow you?
Yeah, so I'm on YouTube at the moment, and that's all. So it's at Wall Again is the handle. Yeah, I'm trying to post very regularly there, and get a bit of a community going.
Stay away from TikTok.
Oh yeah.
Like nice. So yeah, awesome. So you can subscribe to his channel, and hopefully I'll do a video on his channel in the near future. And the Sound Podcast, where can they follow your podcast, guys?
So you can find us on social media, be it Instagram or Facebook, at That Sound Podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook. We're on Patreon as well. So you can subscribe to our Patreon to get some early access, to be in with the chance to win either a CD, digital copy, vinyl copy of the album, all of that good stuff, discounts off merch. We're on YouTube also, and we are available on all streaming platforms. So that's your Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts. Wherever you get your podcasts, we're on it.
Nice. And I'll hope to be on your podcast in some future to talk music.
Definitely.
Definitely, Hector. Yeah,
Definitely.
It would be brilliant to have you on.
Yeah, I'll be delighted. So I don't know.
We do an album review. Part, so it'd be great to get the 4 of us on and do a similar thing on Rob's podcast and a similar thing on ours. Maybe we can all pick an album and come to an agreement on it.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. So and obviously, Couchers, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, like I do Is It That Bad? Album reviews. I interview a lot of bands on this channel. And coming up next for Is It That Bad in the coming weeks, we have some new albums that we're going to do because The Offspring has a new album coming out, and I've heard the singles and they're atrocious. So I feel comfortable saying that it's going to be that bad. So I know we're going to do that one. There's a few newer albums that are still coming out at the end of this year that we're doing. Oh, Skillet has a new album. So we're going to cover it on Is It That Bad? We've already listened to the first single, and I post a YouTube short and people are mad at me. But yeah, there's a few newer albums that we're going to discuss. And if you're watching this episode, we also did this weekend a Linkin Park Living Things from 2012. We picked that one because if we would have picked one more time, one more minute, whatever that 2017 record, we all know it sucked. So it would have been like a short episode. Like there's no discussion there. So yeah, and that's what's coming up. So thank you for joining us for a new episode of Is It That Bad? So until next time, couchers, this is Hector, the shield dude on a couch, and we'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you and goodbye.